Hi, everybody. This is Dan Stilbargo. Welcome to this week's Middle East update. It is October 16th. We're going to look back over the events that have transpired this week. Just an important reminder, tonight my wife and I are heading off to Israel. We'll be there for about a month. So the Middle East updates will all be available as PDFs that I'll put on our Holy Ground website, our YouTube channel, so that you can have access to the PDF files of what's going on. We'll be in Israel. Unfortunately, when we're there, we don't have the capability of really doing videos and getting them uploaded. So for the next month, the Middle East update will be primarily through the PDF PowerPoints that we send out. Okay, so let's take a look at this week. Obviously, very dramatic week. A lot has gone on, and we're going to rejoice with those who rejoice, and yet we're going to be realistic also, knowing that what has transpired is not complete. We're not even, quote, halfway there at this point in time. But yet, with that being said, let us rejoice that we have 20 hostages that have been returned to their home, to their families. We rejoice in that. 20 live hostages returned. And as we breathe, we then realize we're not even halfway there yet, because this so-called Trump 20-point deal is just getting started, and we're seeing a delay already with Hamas in regards to the bodies that have yet to be returned. So we'll take a look at our news bites. Keep this in mind. Israel released 250 security prisoners who were serving life sentences for participation in terror attacks, 250, along with 1,700 other prisoners. That's 1,950 total, including women and children. And so far, they've gotten 20 live hostages back and 9 fallen. And so we still have 19 to go in order for this first phase to be complete. Again, this is our News Bites section. No big surprise here. CNN's Christine Amanpour, unbelievable. Well, I say that, but it is believable. Her quote on CNN was that the Israeli hostages probably have been treated better than the average Gazan, because they were pawns and they were chips that Hamas held. She makes this comment, primetime, CNN, and then because of how offensive it was, a day later she had to recant these comments. Keep in mind, the so-called privileged hostages were starved, electrocuted, held in chains and cages underground, forced to dig their own graves. If that's what she considers as being better than the average Gazan, please. All right, Hamas has claimed that it's done. It's complied with all the terms of the ceasefire. The reality is that there were 28 bodies that were supposed to be delivered, and they've delivered 9. But they're stating that they can't find them or they can't get to them, and they've handed over all the living and everybody that it could reach. Again, Israel Foreign Minister Gideon Saar says, we know for certain that Hamas can easily release a significant number of captives according to the agreement. They're slow playing it like usual. We know that there's at least 10 that they could return immediately. So what they're doing now is a fundamental violation of the agreement. And then finally, for our news bites, the newest poll out indicates that Benjamin Netanyahu's approval rate is now at an all-time high. The survey found that if our elections were held today, the ruling coalition would win over 66 seats at this particular time. All right, now for our main articles. The first one is "The Clock Keeps Ticking" at Hostage Square. And remember, yesterday was Simchat Torah. Again, let me stress, Israel's dancing and rejoicing, whether it's at Nova, whether it's at Hostage Square. We want to rejoice with those that have been released. But the clock that marks the time since October 7th, 2023 at Hostage Square was not stopped. It was not switched off after the so-called ceasefire because there are still 19 bodies that have yet to be brought home. So the clock ticks on. It's hard to imagine the feelings of those who know that they've lost a loved one in the midst of the celebrations that are going on. And so we need to continue to press on in our prayers that all bodies would be released. Up to this moment in time, Israel has kept all of its commitments, but Hamas has failed to. And again, no surprise there. And then we have what I call the letdown. Following, as we've been mentioning, following the joy of the returning of all the living hostages, Hamas has only returned 9 and has again apparently said, we're done, we can't find any, we need help, etc. We'll see what takes place with that. And then our friend Amir, I always want to give his take, lean into boots on the ground, believer, friend, but, and again, Amir's ministry, Behold Israel. He writes, people have been asking me in private messages whether Trump's Gaza deal will endure or whether it will collapse. And he says the answer lies in this verse. Can Ethiopians change their skin or leopards their spots? Then also you can do good who are accustomed to do evil. Hamas, he goes on to say, along with Hezbollah and the Iranians, will never abandon their dream, their goal, their mission to do what? Completely annihilate the Jews. It's hatred. It's not about policy. It's Jewish existence. And then, this Trump's throwing around this everlasting peace comment. The realities of what has taken place. Again, this is from a news feed from Israel, says, has Bibi or Trump's approach of establishing peace in the Middle East through the surrounding Arab states completely triumphed? It's more complicated than that. As part of the deal, Israel's had to pay lip service to the potential hypothetical, etc., Palestinian state, predicted and predicated on the prospect that the Palestinian Authority will cease to support terror, change its ways, and during this transitional phase of the peace deal, the PA will have some sort of presence in Gaza. These gestures, purely symbolic, but Hamas still exists. Hamas still exists inside of Gaza. It's unclear what form the long-term governance of the region will take. And so this is indeed what we've experienced is a potential major breakthrough, but the answer is what kind of peace will we actually have? And that still remains to be seen. But the bottom line, I think it's safe to say, is that the path to peace in the Middle East no longer will run through Ramallah and this myth of a state solution. And then, as I mentioned, we are dancing again. 2 years ago, Hamas turned this Jewish festival of Simchat Torah into one of the darkest days of Jewish history. But in locations around Israel, Israelis gathered together to sing and to dance at the site of the Nova Festival, at Sderot's police station, where there were 20 police officers that were killed there. Even up north in Kiryat Shmona, where much of the war in the north, that town, if you remember, had to be evacuated because of the threat of Hezbollah. And they're dancing at Hostage Square as well in Tel Aviv. We rejoice with those who rejoice. And then millionaires on the street pay to slay. 2 days ago, Israel released 250 Palestinian terrorists who had been serving at least one life sentence for murder for the release of 20 Israeli hostages. While in prison, these 250 terrorists, not hostages, terrorists, they were paid by the Palestinian Authority high monthly salaries. And now, of the 250, those that are released, are you ready for this? Drum roll, please. We now have 160 new Palestinian terrorist millionaires that are walking the street. In total, the Palestinian Authority paid these killers a total of at least close to $70 million. The Palestinian Authority, the so-called moderate peace partner that we just referred to, ensures, makes it clear to those that have eyes to see and ears to hear, that it very much pays to slay. Turkey and Qatar, okay, two of the major big boys in this peace partner. In reading this article, I thought it needed to be stated. Inviting Qatar and Turkey to play a role in the Gaza Strip means again bringing Iran in through the back door. Both countries have strong relations and shared interests with Iran. But in time-honored tradition of Arab politeness, these countries may well be telling President Trump what he would like to hear. They're secure in the knowledge of this. Are you ready? 3 years he'll be off their backs, unable to pressure them anymore. Meanwhile, everything now leading up to that is just posturing. The article goes on to say that Qatar and Turkey are not interested in the reconstruction of the Gaza Strip. Instead, they are interested with the backing of Iran in rebuilding Hamas, in rebuilding Hamas's military and civilian capabilities, and ensuring that the terror group survives, perhaps in some rebranded form, but survives and remains in power. They'll play the long game. 3 years, Trump is gone. Who knows who will be in office at that time? And then our last article has to do with Eli Cohen. The Saudi Al Hadith channel has reported that the remains of this hero, this Israeli spy hero, the remains of Eli Cohen may soon be transferred to Israel. He was Israel's legendary spy who infiltrated the highest ranks of the Syrian government in the 60s, providing critical intelligence that later helped to advance the victory of the Six-Day War. He was captured, he was hung, executed in Damascus in 1965. And up to this point in time, Israel's tried year after year after year after year to get his remains, and it's been a slammed shut door. But now the Lebanese papers, the Saudi papers, are reporting that Syrian President Ahmad al-Sharaa has agreed to return Eli Cohen's remains to Tel Aviv after 60 years. Now that would be something. and we'll wait to see if that actually takes place. So again, that's our report for this week. Just again, a reminder, no YouTube videos for the next month, but please, we will send out through Holy Ground, KFIR, we will send out the hard copies that I provide for you every week of the PDF PowerPoints. So with that, God bless you. Shalom, shalom. Be praying for our trip. We've got a group of 25. We can't wait to get to the land, to walk it, to talk it, to meet the people. And we appreciate your prayers. So God bless you. And again, shalom, shalom.